Hello and welcome to the Patient Win Insider. I'm Kyle Randall, and today we are joined by Hardik Chodavadia, co-owner of Enamel Dentistry, which is headquartered in Austin, Texas. Now, to this date, Hardik and his team have opened up 8 offices, and they have 2 more on the way. I want to say, Hardik, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Kyle.
Yeah. Now, 8 practices, that's really impressive. Can you tell me the story, though? Let's rewind back a little bit. Whenever you first got started, can you tell me the story of how enamel dentistry got off the ground and what personal values guided you in those early days?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started our first practice back in 2015, about 2 years after we had graduated. 2016, 2 years after we graduated dental school. The story is funny. Me and my friend from dental school were working for the same large dental group down here in Dallas. Um, we were naive young dentists that thought we knew everything just coming out of school. And, we worked at a
Yeah.
place where, we had an amazing team, great assistants, great front office. And we worked with some great other dentists, and part of us felt like we were held back by just the system to a certain degree.
Hmm.
And so, our idea is like, well, man, these guys are growing quick, and I feel like there's so much opportunity, and there's so many things that I feel like we could do better, right? And
Yeah.
so if they're doing this well, and we feel like there's so much they could do so much better, how hard can it really be?
Right.
And then so, our idea when we started our group was it was simple, right? We wanted to create a place where, the patients and the teams actually like to go to, right? And it was as simple as that. And we thought again it was not that complicated. So we moved down to Austin, and we opened our first practice with the idea that we could do that. Turns out business is a lot more complicated than just like opening up and be like, okay, patients, please come in.
Yeah. Doors are open. Everybody line up. It's fine. Single
Yeah,
queue line, right? Yeah.
exactly.
And beyond it, obviously, you're experts at delivering the service by then, right? Experts in
hmm
dentistry have been working for 2 years. Is there anything that maybe surprised you about opening it that was outside of, obviously running a business is a whole different skill set. Was there any surprises initially off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we were young dentists at the time, and I
Yeah.
think even as dentists, we still had so much to learn, right? So that was
Mm.
like part number one. We were
Yeah.
still learning, and the biggest realization I think was, and I think this applies to a lot of young dentists too, is when you work somewhere, a lot of times you're working there for a year, 18 months, maybe 2 years, right? The interesting thing is you don't really see the result of your work and like over a long-term period, right? So you may
Mm.
think you're amazing, but let's see like 2, 3, 4 years from now, how does the work really look, right? And so really realizing that, hey, we're opening this practice. We didn't have dreams of opening 7, 8, 10 practices, right? We're like, hey, we need to open this one. We want to make it good. And so there was that realization that was really, really big. And so really taking pride in the quality of the work. And I think that's the baseline of where it starts. But I mean, I think the thing that we were really not prepared for was um, actually being leaders in the office as the owner and as the decision maker, because I think it was a lot easier to be a quote unquote leader in the office when it's not your practice, right? Because there's always like a bad guy to a certain degree. It's like, hey, I can't actually fix these problems, but I can support you. Versus there's certain problems where like, I'm the owner, so I should be able to fix this. And then there's other financial constraints or things that you have to consider outside of just fixing a like, a problem right in front of you, right? And so that was
Totally.
really, really big. And realizing that, it's just a completely different dynamic, and how we had to really grow as human beings to become better leaders for the people that we're working with, right?
Absolutely. Those soft skills, when you, I think you said it really great, when you actually do have to be the good guy and the bad guy,
Yeah.
maintain morale while also fixing problems and hitting problems on the nose. That's maybe is sometimes uncomfortable. I think that's any new entrepreneur's journey is definitely a part of it, especially as you develop a bigger team. Now, you mentioned there was never the dream of 10 practices from the get-go. You started with one office, and you mentioned quality, right? You wanted a place where people wanted to actually show up to work. And in our previous conversation, you mentioned this book, Unreasonable Hospitality. I think these all kind of tie
Hmm.
together in terms of themes of our discussion so far. Can you tell us about that, what it means for your practice, and maybe a moment that either it resonated with you that you managed to embody it, or maybe even moments that made you, I guess, made the book resonate with you as something you wanted to implement with your staff?
Yeah, and so truthfully, Unreasonable Hospitality is a book I read 2 years ago, right? So it was not even a book
Okay,
that I read when we were first starting. But I
sure.
think that's the one thing that we realized early on is how people feel when they step into your office is so much more important than, I mean, I don't want to say more important, but it's so much more impactful than like what you actually do from like a care
Mhm.
standpoint, right? And I think we realized very early on that just being able to be a good dentist and do really high quality work wasn't enough, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
enough for you to build you'll have a good practice probably, but you can't have a thriving practice. And ultimately, like it just because you do amazing work, like is that rewarding in and of itself, right? You want people to be really feel comfortable, you want people to be happy, you want people to feel like they're a place that they can go and they can trust to see you. And so much of what we do in dentistry you can't see, right? Like if I did a filling
Truly.
on you, Kyle, you have no idea
Yeah.
if I did a good job or not until like unless if it's like fails, right? And that could be
Right.
years down the road if it
That's what we're
does.
talking
And
about, the
so,
3, 4 years. Let's see who's having to come back, or if
exactly.
yeah,
But what you will remember is like, hey, like Dr. C was one, he was like he just like felt like he was connecting with me as a human being and he made me feel comfortable and I just felt like I was in good hands, right? And I think the concept of unreasonable hospitality was we kind of we're doing that, especially early on, without ever having to read the book. It's like, hey, look, like we're going to make sure that when you walk in, we're gonna say your name. We're gonna look you in the eyes, like greet you like we know who you are. Because honestly, like I know who you are. Like your name is literally in the computer, right? Like I
sure.
should know who you are, and then just remove the cold sterileness of how a lot of medical care can be, right?
Totally. And especially you've got people that are walking in a vulnerable position, whether
Oh
they're
yeah.
in, they may be in pain, they may be nervous. So to create a warm environment that makes one feel comfortable is really, I think, the key to get people to come back in an industry that starts to feel a little bit more commoditized, right? Like, how do you
Hmm.
differentiate? It's got to be on the feeling, it's got to be on the emotional side of
Exactly.
the interaction. That makes a
Yeah,
lot of
because
sense.
I think I think there is a difference if you go into an older office versus a brand new office, right? It's just nicer nowadays, like what we're building out. But any new office that you go to is going to be super nice. Like I have not seen a brand new office that's not going to be nice. We all have a bunch of TVs, we all have Netflix, we all have like all the bells and whistles, and I think
Sure. Yeah.
that's a question that marketers have always asked, like what makes you different or like what separates you, and it has to be like that human connection emotional component to it because I can give you like 100,000 gifts but at the end of the day like that's really
Yeah.
not not going to be impactful.
Totally. Now, how do you achieve the same kind of feeling? How does that, when you are scaling it to currently 8 practices
Hmm.
and 2 more, right? How do you make all of the practices feel personal and aligned with that vision?
You know that's the magic bullet, right? I think that's
Right.
something we're still working on getting better at. A lot of it is just talking about the ideas to your our teams like on a regular daily basis and reminding everybody what it's about because I think when you are working in healthcare it's really easy to depersonalize it because it's it's an everyday thing, right? Me doing a filling or an extraction or a crown or a root canal is not that big of a deal for me because I'm doing so much of it, right? Now, if
Right.
I flip it around, it if I was the one getting it done, even now I'm a dentist, I'm like, that's a big deal for me, right? Like
Right.
that is not
Yeah.
something that is super comfortable, and it is like a big deal. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important to for us to like as healthcare providers to always keep that in mind. And it's really having that message. talked about and about the teams across the board, right? I think there's a certain level of systemization that has to occur, and that's something that we learned because when we were at our one office, I had control of everything all the time. I knew what was happening, and once you scale, you don't, right? And you can go off the rails really really quickly because things can become very different and hard to manage. So I think a lot of that is like crafting very purposefully and intentionally on paper what you that patient experience needs to look like, right?
Sure, sure.
And really then training off of that, training your team, and how do you make sure that it's happening? A lot of it is you know you look at your reviews. If you're consistently getting reviews, that's a really good sign. We look at our patients. If we're telling them they need some fillings, are they actually doing it, right? Because if they're not, that's probably a sign that there's some
Could be a trust
place.
factor, right? Yeah.
Exactly, right? And one thing that we're working on, and I don't want to tell our teams yet, but is working on we quote unquote secret shoppers, right? So incentivizing patients that are coming in and being like, hey, these are the things we want, and like me calling as the owner calling
Totally.
some patients that are coming in. It was like, hey, I'm one of the owners. We're really excited to see you. I was hoping that you could do us a favor. These are the things that I'm looking for in our patient experience, and these are
That's
the
great.
checkpoints that we want to have. I'll give you $100 gift card if you can
Yeah.
just let me know how it goes. Right. And then here's like a survey and a checklist that you want to go through. And I want to make sure that they hit those points. That's something we're working on implementing now
Yeah.
because I that's it's one of those things where we were like there's some offices like, hey, this office hasn't gotten a review in a week versus this other way smaller office has 9 reviews in a week, right? And it's
Right.
like, okay, where's the disconnect? And is it the experience? Is it the doctor? Is it there's something that doesn't line up. There's that may not be working, right? And so it's really figuring out how to test and quantify that. And I think first you have to systemize and then you have to actually audit if it's happening.
Yeah, I think that's super clever. It's obviously the only way to really know what's happening. I think,
Yeah.
especially as people scale, you expect like, oh, now we have systems in place. I get to somehow do less or something. I don't know when that can ever happen as somebody who is not in the same shoes as you, but also like building teams, doing more. You just have to get more and more hands on if you want it done right. And especially in an industry where, like you're saying, 9 reviews a week, you certainly want to make sure those are all 5 stars, as
Exactly. They
that's
were, so we're good.
become the way. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. I guess speaking of that, like we're obviously monitoring reviews because the impact of the online reviews is bringing in more people, right? Um, Growing 10 practices or 8 already, 10, like no easy task. Clearly, you have some sort of playbook going forward. Like, what has really worked for you to get active patient charts going, people in the door? Or is there
Yeah.
any secret sauce you have? Or is there anything that you thought would work that didn't work? Like, what for both of those questions, I guess.
We truly have tried and or will continue to try so many different things because at the end of the day, continuing to attract more new patients and things like that is going to be one of the most important things, especially for our growing practices, our newer
Right.
practices too,
Yeah.
right? And even our existing ones, it's just something that you need to maintain, right? And we're looking for same store growth as well, right? And so that's one of the ways to fuel that. And so we, I think at the baseline, it is the experience. To this day, word of mouth is still our biggest patient driver, right?
Yeah. Sure.
It is still going to be the best. When you have a patient that comes recommended from somebody else, that thing that we talk about, the trust factor, is already there's inherent trust built in, right? When it's
Absolutely.
like my best friend said, you know, enamel dentistry was like the best dentist he has ever been to, and I should go. I'm
Right.
coming in like is trusting it already, right? So I think that's where really focusing on the patient experience, I think, is still you're going to be your best ROI. Um, but I think really diversifying the other external patient marketing like strategies, right? Where um, I think we look at people that are ready to make a decision to come see a dentist right away, and I think that's where your avenues like Google pay per click come from, right? Those are people who are searching for a dentist right now, right? So those are expensive patients to get, but they are patients that are ready to make a decision. I think it's important. You want to capture those. And then there's, we do some social media marketing, and those are a lot of like lead generation. And then if we're trying to market like Invisalign or certain different procedures where we're trying to capture information and kind of just like in traditional marketing, you're putting them through like a nurture sequence or a funnel to try to, whenever they're ready to make that decision. Because those patients that you're seeing there, one, they just want, if you see them, or they, I'm sorry, if they see you, you're top of mind when they're ready to make a decision. And you can kind of be the person that's there for a service that they may be interested in. Maybe it's 2 weeks from now, maybe it's a month from now, maybe it's a few other, few weeks from now.
Sure.
I think that's an important factor as well. And one thing we're starting to work on is in-person stuff as well, right? I think it's not as sexy as like the digital marketing and that kind of thing, but
Sure.
we're in a human business where we are. That is not going to change anytime soon. We see people face to face. I think if you could get in front of people and let them know that like they get to meet members of your team and they're like, oh wow, like this person is like very like warm and caring, and like I want to go to a dental office where this person works, right? And you can engage with people in the community. I think that's just as important as all the other sexy digital marketing and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, got it. So it sounds to me like when you have a new office, are you running like a harder push, I guess,
For
digitally
sure, we have
for,
to, right?
yeah,
I think the faster you can get a new office online within the system, the better. Like the less strain you have on the other offices, right? Because realistically, if you don't have any patients, you're going to be running
you're
a
pulling
negative
from,
balance, right?
yeah, you're
And then you
pulling
have to
from the other offices. Totally.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So there is a financial burden on the other offices. Whether it's like easily demonstrable or not, it exists, right? Because you have to have a bigger team. You have 10 offices versus you have six. Your team is going to be a lot different too, right? So that office may be paying its bills, but there's a support team underneath it that it may not be able to help maintain, right? So there's a
Right.
lot of nuance to the financial management, and I think the quicker you can get a new office up to par, the better the whole organization does. Even if the office isn't doing incredible, if it's just getting to a point where it's able to, you know,
Even, right?
break
Or even
even and
close
pay
to that.
start to contribute
Yeah.
to more expenses. I think the impact down the road, that's where you get, when you have a group, people talk about economies of scale. That doesn't happen unless you have offices that are performing well too,
Yeah,
right? So
one poorly performing office, your whole scaling is kind of has a limp in
exactly,
it, right? You got one thing
exactly.
that's beginning to drain. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I could see how it's important for every single one to be at least contributing a little as it continues. And I guess you're talking about economies of scale. You're thinking about the way in which you're able to purchase, you're able to advertise, you're able to, I guess, working with vendors
Hmm.
and the people that supply for you all of a sudden because you've got this bigger group you're able to kind of get a discount per office.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
and the other piece that I think I've noticed recently when we do have a group, there's a bit of interest from like emerging technologies that want to work with you too, because they're looking for proof of concept, right? And so,
Totally.
at our size, we can try stuff really easily, and so they're like, okay, well, I can work with 10 single offices, or I can work this with this one group, and we can experiment a lot more, right?
Totally.
Especially with
Yeah.
AI and some other stuff. I mean, we've worked with a bunch of technology solutions that we've tested. What some have gone well, some haven't. But I found that a lot of these newer technology companies who are looking for groups to work with, because the conversations that they have to try it are less, and they get to try it on more
Right.
places, right?
Right. Right. I mean, tell what is exciting you? Like you've gotten to try out these new things that a lot of dentists
Hmm.
have not even heard of yet. Are there
Right.
which ones have been exciting to you? Which ones are working or that you
Yeah.
have implemented that you're really excited about?
There's a few. I'll tell you my favorite one that we're working with right now is a company called Avora. Really new. I mean, the company started in like November, right?
Yeah.
But think of it as like advanced patient engagement, right? So
Hmm.
our teams have a lot to do, right? And so the thing that I talked about is how can you deliver that? unreasonable hospitality to every single patient that comes in. And the
Right.
more patients that you're seeing, the more difficult that can become, right? And we are a PPO practice, so it is not like a max volume game, but we do have to see a higher volume than if we were fee for service. And so how do you continue to deliver like a very consistent, very personalized touch? So that's where Avora comes in, and it's really interesting. So it's built natively with AI, so I think there's a lot of power to that. But what it does is they'll have let's just call it like an agent, right? And the AI agent connects to our patient database, and it's able to learn about, let's say you, Kyle, right? And it's like, okay, well, these are all the clinical notes that about Kyle. These are any personal details that we've written. This is the treatment plan that we have for Kyle, and these are all we have this thing in Open Dental called a comm log, and so that records any communication. So it reads that. So it's like this is all the stuff that we've talked about with Kyle. This is how we've talked with Kyle, and this is what it seems like our priorities are. So now let's say you're overdue for a cleaning appointment, right?
Hmm.
Instead of it just being, "Hey, we missed your last appointment. Come in." It's like, "Hey, Kyle, I know, I hope your vacation, last summer was really great. I know doctor was worried, wanted to check in about the couple of areas that we had. We'd love to have you come in for your checkup, right? Like that's a much
Right.
better message than
Totally.
just, hey, come in for your cleaning. If you're, we have plenty of patients that are like, hey, I need to think about, the fillings that you talked about.
Hmm.
It's one of the easiest things to forget about is dentistry, right? So again, your follow up uh, instead of your team having to call and write these messages, which sometimes can be problematic, right?
Sure.
It's a really nicely crafted message directly to you, right? We have it. We send what we call well care messages. So after every appointment, you get a message checking in on you, and it's exactly about what you just had done, right? Or like, and it's
Sweet.
really, really tailored to you as a person. And there's other pieces that are building on top of it, which are insane. So there's a scribe functionality, right? So clinical notes is the bane of many assistants
Sure.
and hygienists and dentists, like existence, because it does take a lot of time and work. And documentation is incredibly important just for, doing the work, but also we need
Absolutely.
certain types of documentation for insurance. So they have a scribe. So it literally records our interactions inside the operatory and transcribes everything, and then puts all that information into our clinical notes. And like
Yeah.
the amount of time that being done well saves is unbelievable, right?
And
And
I don't know
it's
if it's
amazing.
there, but I can just imagine it being like, okay, we now have it in our system. We need the AI generation version of this for insurance, right? That has prompts.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying it's there yet, but I can just imagine it's a click away of like, I need variations of this for different options.
Yeah.
One,
So
create the follow up text. This version, create the insurance version.
yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of there. Like there's so what's really cool inside of, so you've used ChatGPT, right? When you log
all the
in, you got
time.
that prompt thing right
Yeah.
there. So they have a thing where it's a prompt, but it's about the patient. So I can
Right.
go in there and say, "Hey, we did a crown on this date. Please write me a narrative about the crown and insurance." So it'll write the insurance narrative. For me, I don't practice full time anymore. I'm usually filling in for doctors that are sick and on vacation, that kind of thing. And so I can just ask it. I say, "Hey, who's the provider who's seen this patient the most? What's going on? What have been the biggest issues that with this patient has had, and what's the most recent thing?" And it'll just write a summary, so I don't have to read every single note and that kind of thing. So I mean, it's improving at like a breakneck pace, and the guys, it's two guys at Evora, it's two 24, 25-year-old kids. They are
Of course.
super super smart, and I
Yeah.
mean the speed at which they're building the product is just insane. All this stuff, Kyle, was built in the last 6 months, right?
That's
So
incredible. That's
it's
incredible.
it is mind blowing.
Yeah, the application of that to have a conversation with the patient, you've got a scribe that's automatically following this. It's already uploading it to a database so that at the end of this, you already have notes in place and you're potentially in the near future just clicks away from having all of the output needed for a follow up, for insurance, for in house. Yeah, just the implications are really incredible. That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, so
love
that's
that.
the most exciting thing I feel like we're working on. But we're working on, an insurance like claims management AR, that kind of stuff solution with hopefully a company pretty soon here. So I mean there's a lot of really interesting things, and I think the world is gonna look very different in 2 to 5
Right.
years.
Yeah, absolutely. I When we spoke last, you told me that, obviously COVID to now, there's been shifts in the market in terms of the economy and a lot of different things. And you mentioned that now you are doing better in some instances with fewer patients at some offices, right?
Sure. Yep.
That with the things that you have implemented, I guess what has changed in your operations to make that possible?
I think one, we have an incredible team. Like like most of the credit goes to them.
Yeah.
Our team that we have now, and we've pretty stable, like, leadership team for the past, let's say, like 2021, right? So, or 2023. Our director of operations that came on, and we've been really stable from that standpoint, so that we've been lucky there. But I think a lot of it is really getting granular on what we had talked about earlier. It's like the systemization and the standardization of a lot of things.
Right.
And ultimately it's doubling down on how are we coaching our teams, right? Because you can have 100,000 technology solutions like I told you about, but unless if your team is on board and ready and like wants to do well, and you have the right people in place, and they're getting consistent coached to do better, right? Nothing is going to get better. And operationally, like you said, we've had some struggles from the external patient acquisition side, right? We are down. But we've been able to continue to maintain and grow our revenue with less patients coming in, at least less new patients, right? So, one, we're keeping more of the patients that we're seeing because we're delivering a better experience overall than maybe
Mm-hmm.
we were before. I think the conversations and how we're having them with our patients are going better, right?
Mm.
And we've trained our treatment coordinators, our doctors, like our assistants. Like, that's a really big point of focus for us to make sure that we're engaging with the patients and having good conversations. So then when it comes down to, hey, Kyle, you need a crown, you're much more likely to be like, okay, let's go ahead and do it rather than not, right?
Right.
Um, and it's not sexy, but we have a much better, very manual follow-up system also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really granularly keeping track of the patients that say, hey, I'm not ready to make a choice right now. Well, let's talk about it, maybe the next visit, or over the next few weeks, or I have to talk to my husband or spouse about, what we talked about. And a lot of times, to be honest, a lot of those patients would fall through the cracks a lot. And I'm sure some still do because it's a very manual process for us right now.
Sure.
But we do have better systems and tracking around it, and a lot of it is not, we need to follow up with this patient because we want to get it done, but life gets busy, right? If I don't, someone doesn't follow up with me in anything, then I there's like
Nope.
a 80% chance I'm going to forget, and
It's
it's
the
not
bottom of my
because I
list
don't want to
now. It's
do
not
it.
front of mind, right? Absolutely.
Exactly. And so I think
Yeah.
that's been a really huge change for us as well. But I think really getting a lot operationally, the team's rowing in the same direction, and having a team that's really great at coaching and connecting with our team members, having an amazing group of office managers and administrative team, and then just everyone kind of working a little bit more cohesively. um
Right.
and I think there's something to be said. I work a lot. I like to work. Like, I work hard because it's our company and I believe in the mission. But having a team that also enjoys, they enjoy working hard and working to make the group better, and not just because we want to make more money. Obviously, we do, but we want to make it better overall. So, one, everyone's lives are easier. We deliver better patient care, and just everyone is just overall happier to be there.
That's kind of a perfect callback to the beginning of our chat here, where you said you started a practice because you wanted a place where you wanted to show up to work and you wanted your employees to show up too. And if you can create that, then people will inevitably buy in and
Yep.
start working harder.
Yeah.
That's
And
fantastic.
that's our vision statement. Like what I said at the beginning, our vision is to create a place where the team and the patients love to go. Right.
Yeah.
We've been far from perfect a lot, but I think having a team that also believes in creating that and actually believes that we want to do it, which is two different things, right? I think that really, really helps.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, if everything goes right in the next 12 months, what would success look like to you at this point?
I think if everything goes right in the next 12 months, I mean, we have two offices in the pipeline. We open those. They ramp up to do really, really well. We start to, the big number one thing that we're working on right now is increasing patient traffic. So, if we're able to do that, um, we're able to, one, create a more profitable business, but because we're able to create a more profitable business, is we're able to reinvest not only in our business but our people, right? So
Totally.
continue to invest in ways and solutions that we can create a better experience for our patients and our team. Right. And so I think that looks like, we have 10 thriving practices in 12 months. Right.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're thriving. So we're looking at, potential opportunities to scale a little bit more. Right. And
Totally.
we've built the infrastructure to do that. So I think I think that's what that looks like for me.
Yeah. Well, Hardik, to transition from dentist and provider of care to somebody who has clearly filled the shoes of scaling and what it's like to then step into the role of a leader. I know it has to have been a huge transition, but you truly do. We can tell it comes across that you love what you do, and that you know to have it all rooted in an experience where everybody wants to be there. I think it's really special what y'all have created, and I guess the proof is in your ability to continue to drive in 5-star reviews across 8 locations and 2 more to come. So that is
I
super
appreciate
impressive.
it.
Yeah, man. Is there anything before we jump off? Is there anything else you'd like to plug before we go?
Um, I mean, if you guys like, you can follow me on social media at Dr. Hard Show at Instagram. I'm on TikTok too. You can see our office. The group is called Enamel Dentistry. It's at Enamel Dentistry on social media. Enameldentistry.com. And then otherwise, I don't. I'm like I said, I'm a dentist that's learning to become a better person and a leader. Oh, I also have a podcast with a really good friend of mine who's also a multi-practice owner, called the
Cool.
Day Ones podcast. We just talk about mindset and like just different things that we're working on to help us get better at like a lot of the challenges that we face in business life and all that good stuff. So I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. And of course, if you're in the Austin area, check out Enamel Dentistry for your dental needs. For
Please,
sure.
yeah, we have a group of incredible doctors that honestly I can say that all of them deliver really high quality care. So
Awesome. Well, Hardik, it was a real pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I really appreciate it.
yeah, thanks,
Have a
Kyle. I
wonderful
appreciate
day.
it.
Have a great one.